I don't know how many people are here from TikTok and how many people. I know Stuart and Tamara, you guys are obviously our regulars. And Kaleem, we're all regulars. But we'll hopefully have a few more people jump on and join us. We've got a few snakes we're going to get out tonight. We're going to get out the Eastern Brown, the big fella. We're going to get out Rowdy. We're going to get out Spitfire, one of our bigger tiger snakes. And we're going to get out Bruiser, the spotted black snake. But first, I thought the topic we might be able to tackle a bit tonight while we wait for everybody to hop on is crocodiles. I'll get a crocodile out while we have a chat. But the crocodiles have been in the media a little bit lately, and they're going to be in the media a bit more over the next few days. So it's a pretty good topic. If I can get one out without getting bitten. This one's shark bait. He's not actually shark bait, that's just his name. But so shark bait's one of our two freshwater crocodiles, who's very happy to be on a live stream. But yeah, so crocodiles have been in the media a little bit lately, and in the next few weeks they will be, because Queensland has just published one of their, I don't want to say annual, it's only happened 5 times in the last 5 decades, but they've published their updated count of crocodiles and the crocodile population, an assessment of the crocodile population in Queensland. So straight away you're going to have 2 parties of people. The party of people jumping up and down saying, see, they're in plague proportions. You've got to get rid of them, including a particular Queenslander with a bigger hat than mine. And you're going to have the crocodile enthusiasts saying that, look, we need to protect them. Would a crocodile plague really be that bad? Well, it's not possible. This is the point. So the latest population assessment confirmed, oi, I'm trying to show everybody what a wonderful species you are. Good boy. So the latest crocodile population assessment shows that there's around 20,000 non-hatchling crocodiles in Queensland today, which sounds like a lot. But the Northern Territory has about 150,000 non-hatchling crocodiles. So a lot more. And if anything, the Northern Territory is starting to get to a point where they're probably at what we call saturation or at the pre-European levels. Now, in Queensland, before they even get to this number, people start jumping up and down saying, we've got to cull them. It's not natural. They need people to control them, as if, people have been here for the last 200 million years keeping their numbers in check. But Territorians don't seem to argue this too much. Most of the arguments to cull crocodiles comes from Queensland, which has 20,000 crocs compared to the Territory, which has 150,000 crocs. So people are going to start jumping up and down saying that there's a plague of crocodiles. We've got to get rid of them. We've got to cull them. And there's a few reasons for this. There is more crocodiles today than there was a decade ago. There's more crocodiles a decade ago than there was 2 decades ago. And it's true that they're in areas now that we don't remember them being in. But the issue with this is a lot of people, particularly older people and people around the age of a lot of our politicians, they grew up in an era post-culling, in like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So they grew up at a time where crocodile numbers were the lowest they had been for millions and millions of years. So there's a lot of places in Queensland and the Northern Territory where they might have swam quite safely. And today where you'd be absolutely insane to get in and have a dip. And these crocodiles have moved back. And people jump up and down and say, see, they're expanding in population. It's only a matter of time before they get to Brisbane, and they're everywhere. There is no place in Australia today, well, there's maybe one place in Australia today I can think of that has crocodiles that didn't actually have crocodiles. The only exception that I can think of is there's some crocodiles on the east coast of Queensland that are probably at a higher altitude than they would have been normally, because there's a croc farm up there and there's been some escapees, whereas the wild ones wouldn't have climbed up all the waterfalls. But, we're talking 5Ks from where they're found in the wild. Other than that, every single place in Australia that has crocodiles would have had crocodiles prior to the 70s. And the reason for this is they've had 200 million years to move anywhere that suits them. So if there is an area in Australia that is climatically, environmentally suitable for crocodiles, they would have already been there. The odds are we've just got rid of them all and now they're moving back. But they're never going to move into a new place that, unless we change it somehow. If we turn up the global warming and, suddenly Brisbane becomes Cairns, maybe we will see that. But, today there's crocodiles not living anywhere that they don't live naturally in Australia. I'll pop him back. He's been a pretty good boy, not wanting to eat my face too bad. But, not to get bitten on a live stream. Of all the things I want to play with, the thing that wants to eat me is the crocodile, not the venomous snakes. But yeah, so, this is something that's going to pop up in the media a little bit. It's only been published in the last day or two. A few friends of mine were consultants for it. And the last time this happened, Bob Catter, one of the politicians up there who was always pushing crocodile culling, he argues that scientists can't count. Well, Bob Catter also went publicly on the news a few years ago and said that there is a person torn apart by a crocodile every 3 months in Queensland, whereas we have a death from a crocodile every couple of years in Queensland. So I don't know who can't count, but no, he certainly can't. Dumb question. Do I work in a wildlife park? I've worked in several wildlife parks. I don't work in any wildlife parks today. G'day, Sue. How are you? The real Aussie Cowboys. Up there, there's certainly the last of some cowboys up there. Have I gone to uni to become a professional handler or a background in wildlife? Great question. I went to uni for a little while and I didn't like it. I'm not a very good uni student. I don't sit down very well. I have ADHD. I'm an animated person. I need to be doing stuff. I don't sit down, I don't relax, and I don't stare at a whiteboard for 4.5 years or whatever. So I did go to university for a while. But basically, I went for 6 months. I was already working for a business doing what I do now, taking animals to schools, birthdays, kindergartens. And I was offered a job at a zoo, basically as a trainee or an apprentice. So I thought, well, that was my end goal. Why do I want to get $60,000 in debt doing a degree if I can get the job now? So I went up to Queensland and I basically learned. So yeah, that's my education, I suppose. Now we're equal tomorrow. Tomorrow and Ram have this thing going every week. Have I ever been to Australia Zoo? No, I've never been to Australia Zoo. I really need to go. It seems like I don't know, faux pas. It's just not right for a wildlife enthusiast not to have been to Australia Zoo, but no, I haven't been. If I go to Queensland, it's probably because I'm going to go to far north Queensland, and it's not real Queensland to get to crocodiles. Fries, how are you, mate? Fries critters. I think I've caught up on everything. Hi, non-apocalyptic, how are you, mate? What's an animal that I want that I don't have? I'd love, nobody keeps them, so it's not going to happen. But I'd love to have northern hairy-nosed wombats. That'd be amazing. Eastern barred bandicoots. I'd like to have a big, outdoor enclosure, like 50 acres, and breed eastern barred bandicoots because they're natives to my area, and I'm particularly passionate about, people conserving their local species. So yeah, there'd be two. If the Queensland population of crocs did grow to 100,000, would it be a plague or the more crocs going back to where they were? Probably explained this already. So yeah, people say, well, how many crocs does there have to be for a plague? And how many crocs should there be? Crocodiles are not a species that can really get into plague proportions. A lot of science has shown, particularly from the McKinley River system in the Northern Territory, that the higher a crocodile population gets, the more cannibalism we see in the crocodile population. So in river systems in the Northern Territory where crocodiles are considered sort of at density or at population, once a crocodile gets to 1 year of age, its biggest predator is other crocodiles. When there's no other big crocodiles around, they don't have that predator. And this explains the bounce back sort of effect. When crocodiles were first protected, and this is why people think there's a plague, they came back very quickly. And the reason they came back so quickly is if their biggest predator is other crocodiles, when there's no other crocodiles, every hatchling has survived, or every hatchling that's made it to a year old has survived. Suddenly now that there's big crocodiles, they're eating the little crocodiles, and the only little crocodiles that make it to big crocodiles are the savvy ones who have escaped. So the growth population has gone up, and then it slows and it'll plateau. So tomorrow, she's had my steak ailing for hours. Oh, God. Can we see the baby scrubby again? How's my week been? My week's been big, Fries. I don't know how many people have agriculturally minded or experienced, but we're marking lambs at the moment. So, man, it's been exhausting. I very nearly called it this week and said, look, we're going to have a week off. But I thought, you guys are kind enough to be here waiting for me every Tuesday. I can't do that to you. Only thing I've seen in Australia, eat a crocodile, an olive python, to be honest. So yeah, good. People imagine that crocodiles don't have any predators. And when you're talking a big crocodile, the list of predators is pretty slim. Other crocodiles would be the biggest one. But as hatchlings, 80% of eggs never hatch. They're eaten by pigs, goannas, dingoes, or they're flooded. You know, they just never get to hatch. Of the ones that hatch, I don't have the exact numbers, but I do have a video on it. But it's something like 90% of hatchlings never make it to a year old. Once they get to a year old, the survival starts going up pretty quickly. But still, something like, I don't know, 40% of the ones that are a year old never make it to 2 years old, so on and so forth. What's the biggest crocodile I've ever seen? I don't really know. The biggest crocodile that I've physically worked with was about 4.8 meters. He was a big boy. I went up to Darwin and I went on one of the crocodile cruises. And every crocodile you see up there, they're like, oh, this boy's 6 meters long. None of them have been hauled out and measured. So, and you know, yeah, every crocodile there is 6 meters long. So, but you know, some of them would certainly have been, you know, 5 meters, 5.2. What are the plans to help the banteng population, like the cattle from Bali? Well, I don't know. It's debated. It's a good question. It's debatable whether we should help them or not. You know, they're an endangered species in their country, but they're an invasive species here, where they could be brought in captivity, bred on farms or stations or whatever. I don't know. I do know somebody who's got one in the rodeo circuit as a bucking bull, and it's winning buckles and awards everywhere. Are you familiar with banteng? Yeah, banteng. They're like a Balinese type of cow. We've got a few in the wild here. Have I seen Matt Wright's big crocodile tripod? Yeah, he's a big boy. What's a banteng? A banteng is like it's a type of cow. It's a bovid, but they live in a feral population in the top end of Northern Territory. They're brought to Australia because we had some diseases in Australia when the first settlers brought cows. They didn't do very well because they brought cows from merry old England. They all died. So they brought water buffalo and banteng, hoping that they'd do better. And then eventually we brought the Bos Indicus cattle, the Brahman cattle from India that are found in much of Northern Australia. All right. Somebody asked to see the baby scrubby. We'll get the baby scrubby out again. I don't think I got him out on this. I did get him out on TikTok. And he peed all over me. But that's just what scrubbies do. I don't know if he's growing or not. I reckon he's growing. He looks to me like he's growing. You guys tell me. Here's the baby scrubby. Why does Australia put tracking devices on saltwater crocodiles? I heard the Irwin family did it for years. Yeah, so it was part of a project. Some of the things that they were looking to, there was a fairly well-published study that they used in a bunch of their documentaries to look into whether crocodile relocation worked. You know, if we caught a crocodile and we relocated it, did it stay there? Did it swim back? And a lot of that studies was done by the University of Queensland, Central Queensland, something like that, by Queensland University and the team at Australia Zoo. And they found out that some of their crocodiles that they flew from the west side of Cape York to the east side, swam all the way over the tip of Queensland and back down to within a kilometre of where they were caught. Same river system. So that's what a lot of the tracking studies have done. But also just, you know, how crocodiles utilise their rivers. Do they stay in their river? Do they move up and down the coast into new rivers? All that was a mystery. So a lot of radio tracking went into that. One thing that scientists have found, it hasn't been done much in Australia, but in in Belize, in South America, where they've got the American crocodile, they've got big population or big problems with crocodiles in built-up areas being fed by people and living off rubbish and stuff like this. And they trap them, remove them, and they just swim back. So park rangers are saying, well, we'll start shooting them. So they started experimenting with ways to relocate them better. And some scientists in Belize found if you put a magnet on top of their head during transport, you halve the likelihood of them finding their way back. So they'd tape them their mouths up like they do for transport. They'd put tape over their eyes to make them relax, and they'd put tape over their head with a magnet that they'd rip out, being a third world country, out of car stereos and things. They'd get these magnets, sticky tape it to the crocodile's head during transport, move it, and then take the magnet off. And they think it must have affected their ability to detect the Earth's magnetic field that they're moving around. And that magnetic field must be important for their navigation. So yeah, there's some interesting science about that. I'm not sure where it's been published, but I've spoken to some people who are involved with it, and it sounds very, very interesting. It'd be cool to see it done in Australia, to see if it works with everything. What is the largest amethystine python I know about? I know of a amethystine python that was like 5.4, 5.5 meters. I know a lot of people who say they've got bigger ones, but I've never seen them measured. So, yeah, I don't want to say anybody's not honest, but yeah. Also, have I got videos about what snakes I have and what their names are? Finding a bit hard to keep up. I do have a lot of snakes. This is Quasimodo. This fella still needs a name. This is Samson. This is Diana. We've got Jake. One day I will do a tour video. At the moment, the place is still split over a few different buildings. And also, one of the tricky things is, you know, we've got snakes that might come in here and they'll have a name. I'll be keeping them because attached to them, and then me finding them a new home. So up until our live streams, I've never really focused on the individual snake, but you guys seem to love it. So we'll keep doing it. We will do a tour. I think we might do a tour come the springtime because, you know, I've got a lot of stuff that is outdoors that it's just sleeping. They're all under rocks and stuff. I don't want to wake them up. But yeah, we might do a tour. Maybe we'll break it. I reckon we'll do it in sort of a couple of sections. We might do one video with a tour of the inside reptile room and one video of all the animals outside because we've got some lizards outside. I want to move some snakes outside. And we've got, you know, the wombat and the possums and the dingo and some birds, all sorts of stuff like that. What would I recommend a vet nurse do to learn snake handling for a clinic? Great question and a great idea. We need more people to know how to handle snakes in vets. From a handling point of view, if you were wanting to handle, because you want to be a snake catcher, I'd get on with a friend. That's my favorite way, is learning on the job from another keeper. But if you're wanting it from a profession point of view, as a vet nurse, I'd be more tempted to find an accredited course. There's a couple of them. Find me on Facebook and send me a message. And don't get too close to the black cockatoo. Yeah, send me a message on Facebook and I'll send you a list of, you know, some ones that I know of. And accredited one means from a workplace health and safety point of view, it covers your bum a little bit more, I suppose. What does a person have to do to export monitor lizards and pythons to America? It's illegal. Flat out, can't happen. The only way that Australia can send out reptiles or wildlife in general is from one accredited zoo in Australia to another accredited zoo in overseas. And even then, they've got to stipulate why. They can't just, America can't just be like, look, we want all your snakes. Yeah. They've got to say, you know, this species is not available over here. This would be the conservation benefits. And an Australian zoo can put in an application and pay a big permit fee to export them. But I couldn't sell you an Australian snake. It just doesn't work that way. I'd lose my permits and never be allowed to keep them again. And then I couldn't talk to you guys about all this. Why do people think it's bad to give your large snake really bad food items when in the wild they eat roos and wallabies? Good question. So, you know, in the wild, snakes are capable of eating very large food items. Also, in the wild, snakes are frequently injured by the food items, whether they're catching it and killing it. You know, there's a very well published video of an alligator that's eaten a Burmese python that's eaten an alligator in the Everglades, and it's torn open in half and died. You don't see that, but that's the reality of eating very, very big food items. And you know, there's all these things that snakes in the wild have parasites, and they don't live as long, and they get scars because they have to, you know, fight their prey to kill it. So there's just, when it comes to the benefits versus the risks, it's much safer to dial it back, feed them a more moderately sized food item, and feed it slightly more regularly. I mix up my food items a lot, so I don't feed all large rats. I feed, these guys all got ducklings this week. A few weeks ago it was quail. It's roosters a lot of the year round. They get the odd rat. If they're big enough, they'll get rabbits every now and then, and I feed pretty sparingly every couple of weeks. So everybody's got their own way to do it, but just because they can eat a huge food source doesn't mean it's that. My brother could probably fit 20 Big Macs in. It doesn't mean it's a great idea. So, if we can't export wildlife, how do some Americans have some of our species? Good question. So, a lot of Australian species are popular overseas, and they're over that way for a few reasons. Some of them have been just flat out smuggled. You know, they've been sent out illegally, And it's not illegal to own them in America. It's just illegal to send them out of Australia. So once they make it that way, a lot of them have gone from Australia to Asia because it's closer. And then illegally on the paperwork in Asia, they've said that they've bred them and then they've imported them to America. But a lot more of them have probably been sent to America either legally, back prior to the 70s when we were allowed to export. A lot of animals were sent out. Inland taipans. I was talking to a few people before. Inland taipans are really not common, but if you were in America and you wanted to buy an inland taipan, you could find one for sale this week. Because it's the most venomous snake in the world, so it was, people wanted it, and they were sent out in fairly large numbers. Also, before all the permits came in. On top of that, like I said, accredited zoos can send animals to other accredited zoos. Many zoos in America or in Europe, they'll get animals in, like rough-scaled pythons. They were only available to private people in the last sort of decade and a half in Australia. And they're already overseas, and they got there legally. So they were bred up in Australia. Some were sent to zoos in America because they wanted to be able to display this new species of snake that's new to captivity, but they're very easy to breed. So they bred them, they swapped them around other zoos, and eventually they bred so many, they're like, well, we'll advertise some to the public, or we'll give some to keepers, and then they gave them to the public, and they make them to the public's hands that way. So it's not illegal to own Australian reptiles, it's illegal to send them out of Australia. So quite a few Australian reptiles are present overseas. Scrubby's in fight mode, yeah. If I had to live feed my girl, the Murray Darling, I would never have got her. Yeah, so I don't live feed pretty much anything. Anything that other than that eats crickets and stuff like that. Too dangerous for them to eat. She gets jumbo rats, yeah. So especially big rats and stuff like that. They can certainly inflict a bit of damage. But how do they import them when they are allowed to? What safety precautions? Yeah, so when they are allowed to import them, for a start, there's a lot of paperwork that's got to go along with it, and there'll be different requirements for different levels of what we call CITES, which basically breaks animals into, common, endangered, dependent on conservation efforts, things like that. They'll have their own conditions. But basically they're sent over similar to if you were sending a dog or a cat. So they'll probably be sent over in a bag. I'll have an empty pillowcase or a bag somewhere. They'll be sent over in a pillowcase, probably double pillowcased. Then that'll go in a plastic tub. It will be labelled. Somebody will drop it off at an airport, and somebody will pick it up at the other end. So it's surprisingly simple to send them over. When they're sent over illegally, they go through horrible conditions. Unfortunately, legally smuggled animals, they're sent over in, stuffed in Milo tins and socks and all sorts of things, and they've got a very, very high mortality rate. I'll pop this little fella on back. It's been nice enough not to try and eat me too bad. And maybe we'll get out another venomous snake, okay? Or I'll catch up on some questions, and then we'll get out another venomous snake. This Brisbane carpet looked like one of the most unwell. Which Brisbane carpet? Sorry, I've seen a certain well-known American YouTuber do a video on carpets in America. This guy's saying he is pure Brisbane carpets. I've heard of a guy in America saying he's got pure Brisbane carpets, but I don't watch too many other YouTubers just because I don't get time. Yeah. what? People with localities get this weird idea, like, does it become localities because it comes from that area? Or does it become that locality because it looks like it comes from that area? I don't know. And then once it's overseas and they're bred for 10 generations and they look different to what they are, can you still call them a locality? It's like the albino blue-tongued lizard comes from the wild. Does that make all albino blue-tongued lizards a locality-specific animal? I don't know. It's a pretty weird debate. Eccleston Angel, how are you, Valerie? Can't speak yet. I'm sorry, Eccleston Angel is another one of our amazing Patreon supporters who has just had a surgery, obviously, so we all wish you very well and hope you recover quickly. We still aren't allowed to cross into South Australia or New South Wales or Queensland. So I'm working on some koala videos, but I don't know when it's going to happen. Aren't I afraid that one of the snakes will try to eat me in my sleep or attack me? No, not really. Of course, snakes bite out of food or fear. On top of that, they're all enclosed. You know, like we keep them pretty responsible. They don't free range my house or anything like this. So, what is my favourite Australian animal? Maybe wombats. I like wombats. All right, I think we'll get out. Drum roll. A tiger snake. Where'd I put my hook? Hopefully this goes well. We're going to get that Spitfire, and normally I work Spitfire on the ground. Oh, you've done a big poo on yourself too. Normally I get Spitfire out on the ground. My back is killing me, so hopefully have Spitfire sit a hook nice and well. Spitfire is a pretty big boy. He's a strong boy. So he is the biggest of our 3 tiger snakes. You're covered in dirt and cocoa peat, and you're a disgusting grok, but we love you. So Spitfire is one of the only snakes that we keep that was born in the wild. Him and our brown snakes. He was born in the wild near Mount Gambier in South Australia, and he was collected by somebody and used for producing venom, for the anti-venom production, before he went on to another keeper in New South Wales, who then passed them on to us. So he's a wild-born snake. That being said, he's pretty nice to handle. It's just he's a big boy, and he's generally more comfortable on the ground, but I can't really reach the ground at the moment. My legs and back are killing me. But yeah, he's a good boy. So the mainland tiger, or eastern tiger, whichever you want to call him, is about the 4th, 5th most venomous snake on the planet today, and responsible for about 17% of Australian snake bite, which probably puts them, thanks Spitfire, Tamara. Spitfire is not doing well. He's peed all over me, and it might be Rami from now on. So yeah, this guy's responsible for about 17% of snake bite in Australia, which makes him the 2nd most common cause of snake bite, after the brown snakes, if you lump all the brown snakes together, that is. But in a 10-year, in the Australian Snakebite Project, which went for 10 years, you're not happy tonight. At all. Which went for 10 years, there was 4 people, and that 10 years killed by mainland tiger snakes. So, I know, you'd much rather be on the ground, eh? Now, while there's only 4 people in that 10 years killed by mainland tiger snakes, up until the 1900s, the tiger snake was the most common cause of snake bite death. And this is largely because when Europeans first arrived here in Australia, we lived in tiger snake habitat, back before we drained it all. And people didn't really live on the west side of the Great Dividing Range. They rat shed your skin, that's probably why he's so grumpy. There's little bits coming off. He doesn't change colour very much when he sheds. That's not so obvious. But yeah, these guys used to be the most common cause of snake bite in Australia, but the brown snake is now it, because basically more people moved into brown snake habitat, and we drained a lot of places that were traditionally tiger snake habitat and turned it into brown snake habitat. Hey, buddy. But yeah, give him all a kiss. Our big tiger snake, Spitfire. Good boy. I washed my hands. I've been piddled on by a tiger snake and down on my shirt. Have I had any serious snake bites? No, I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. Hang on, one tick. I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. I've been bitten by pythons, obviously, plenty of times, but I handle pythons, in a different way to how I handle venomous snakes. So never been bitten by a venomous snake at all. The only animal, I've been to hospital twice due to animals. One was a bull and one was a koala. So I'm happy I got to see him. I guess I'll deal with Rami from now. I will get Spitfire out more often, I promise. How does the urine affect the other snakes I handle tonight? Hopefully we'll be all right. Brutus is the main one. Maybe the blue-bellied black. I don't know if you'll get a little bit funny. Did I get chlamydia? From the koala. No, I got bitten. And then it wasn't actually the koala's fault. He bit me. And then I did a crocodile show with this big hole in my hand. So I was handling raw meat. And the next day my hand swelled the size of a dinner plate. I got an infection from a combination of the bite and handling meat at the zoo doing crocodile shows. Why does Australia demonstrate saltwater crocodiles death roll. I heard Australia Zoo, and there's this 5-meter crocodile called Elvis from the Australian Reptile Park. Yeah, so some zoos in Australia demonstrate the death roll, which is when saltwater crocodiles, they roar out, they grab something and they roll it. The death roll is a funny thing. It's great to show people because people love to see it. It gets people excited. In reality, it's probably not to kill their prey. Nile crocodiles, they're grabbing things like wildebeest and zebras. They swim across. And they're, maybe it's a bit more of a thing there. But for if you in that crocodile's mouth, there's like 3.5 tons in weight when it slams his jaws. You can drop 3.5 tons in weight on an elephant and it's dead. You don't need to roll it. But they can't swallow it. So they'll roll it, rip off a leg, swallow that. But the knife and fork roll doesn't sound very exciting. So the death roll is a better name. But the main reason zoos do it is because the public love it. Do Asian water monitors show up in Australia? No. There's a single record of one in way up the top end of Cape York, and the record's really dodgy. It's somebody seeing a lizard that they said, I've seen one in Thailand. There was zero evidence for it. So no, we don't get them. They don't even come into like Papua New Guinea. So Rami is the nicest one easily. Spitfire is an absolute beast. Spitfire is he's a beast. I don't blame him. If I was Spitfire, I'd be a little bit less comfortable to handle it. He sort of sits differently on a hook. What's the most dangerous animal around me? It'll be the eastern brown snake that'll get out. Do I have a Rosenberg's monitor, which is a Heath monitor? No. I love them. I've been back and forthing with the permit department for a couple of years trying to get them. But they just won't issue me permits for them. So I'm still working on it. Send you a screenshot of it. Pretty hilarious. Doesn't look like a carpet pun. Yeah, send me a photo of that the Brisbane carpet and we'll get back to it. All right. Spitfire the Blue-belly. All right, we'll get out the Blue-belly before tomorrow has to leave us. He hasn't been out for a little while, so we'll see how he does. I suppose I don't get him out much in the live stream because he's just a plain black snake. That being said, the brown snake's a plain brown snake. The king brown's a plain brown snake. But I don't know, maybe it's just easy to forget about. But this is Bruiser. So Bruiser is what we call a spotted black snake or a blue-belly black snake. You got dirt all over your face. So Bruiser is a blue-belly black snake or spotted black snake. Say hello to everybody. So of all the black snake family, which you're talking, red bellies, king browns, collets, blacks, spotted blacks, the pygmy mulgars, this is meant to be the most venomous. It's the most venomous black snake in Australia, and it's the second most venomous black snake in the world. So the only black snake, the only member of the black snake family that's more venomous than this guy is the Papuan black snake, which is obviously found in Papua New Guinea. It's got highly neurotoxic venom, so much more like brown snakes and taipans and things like that. He likes wrapping his hand around his tail around my hand. All right, so yeah, this species is found basically in northern New South Wales, southern Queensland, and he's another species that's pretty well known for eating snakes. So spotted blacks will eat other spotted blacks, they'll eat red bellies, they'll eat brown snakes, anything like that. But unlike the red belly black, this species, the blue belly black, is an egg-laying species. So they'll have about the same amount of offspring, 12 or so, but they'll lay eggs. And egg laying is advantageous to live bearing in warm climates because it's less of a physical sort of responsibility. Once you lay the eggs, you can leave. You don't have to, put energy into growing embryos inside you. Some egg laying species, they can go and breed again. Whereas live bearing animals have a distinct advantage in cold climates. They can carry those babies in their stomach from warm place to warm place. And it doesn't matter if it's too cold for eggs to develop, They can make sure that they hatch. But it's a very cool snake. This is one species that has a particularly nasty bite. I know a few people have been bitten by them and had some really nasty side effects. But some of the things that a lot of the black snakes can cause things like anosmia, where you lose your sense of smell, your sense of taste. But this species is also somewhat neurotoxic, so you can, get paralyzed, paralysis in the face, your heart muscles. And these guys even have a slightly sort of cytotoxic thing where people bitten by black snakes, not so much now because the treatment's better, but people bitten by black snakes used to lose the digit that was bitten. So you're a bit twitchy, aren't you? So yeah, people used to quite often lose hands and fingers and stuff bitten by black snakes. So it's a pretty serious snake. But we'll have one more look at Bruiser here. Look at the camera, Bruiser, not me. There you go. You can see him compared to handling Brutus the red belly is chalk and cheese. He's a cool snake, but he's totally different attitude. But there you go, tomorrow. You got to see, I hope you're still there and got to see Bruiser. Have a look. Who's the other tiger snake? The other one doesn't have a name. It's this scrawny looking snake that was given to me. I suspect it might have been wild caught. It was given to me by a friend that I don't know very well, in the hopes it was a female, but I'm pretty certain it's a boy. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't handle very well. But maybe I'll get out the other tiger snake next week. What would I do if I saw a wild snake near my house or in it? Would I catch it myself and then release it? Would I call somebody else in? If I was you, if I was a member of the public, I would call somebody in. Me, I'd catch it myself. But like, if somebody in town finds a snake in their house, I'm the person they call. So if I need to call somebody, I don't have anybody else, I'm the person. So yeah, we find snakes. We've never had any in our house, but we've had them in our house yard. Like, I live on a farm. So, you know, we quite often have snakes on our property. I found a little baby tiger snake when I was collecting firewood a few days ago, middle of winter. So yeah, there is snakes here, and I try not to move them very far. If I don't need to move them, I don't move them. If they're out in the paddock, they can stay out in the paddock. I've got kids, and they're just smart enough to wear boots when we go out in the paddock. But if it's around the house yard where the kids play, where all my dogs are and stuff like that, you know, I'll pick it up, I'll take it down the paddock again, and let it go out that way. Still here, thanks Nick. I'm glad you got to see him. Rami, we don't want amateurs getting bitten by wild snakes. Yeah, me and my mate are getting his setup going for the next few weeks. We should get on TikTok live. We'll get some stuff out too. Go for your life. I can handle the competition, mate. Can I talk about the eastern brown snake? I can get out of eastern brown snake. Are there actually invasive boas in Victoria? No, boas wouldn't survive in Victoria. There's been a few boas found in Queensland, but whether they're breeding or whether they're probably more likely that they're just individual release snakes. Corn snakes, it's believed, are breeding in the wild here in Australia, though. Yeah. It's weird, unlike everywhere else in the world, Australia's largest land predator is a lizard. Well, the dingo comes pretty highly. You know, like the dingo is larger than the parenti. Mind you, the largest land predator we've ever had was a lizard, Megalania prisca or Varanus prisca. Was, you know, a 6 to 7 meter long goanna. Think of a crocodile that runs as fast as a horse. That's the biggest land predator we've ever had. But yeah, a lot of our, you know, ecosystems today are reptile dominated. We've also had some big like mammalian predators, things like obviously the thylacines. There was several species of thylacine. There was Thylacoleo carnifex, which was the marsupial lion. So a few of them. Looks like the name Bruiser is stuck. Didn't Australia have a crocodile that ran like a horse? We had a crocodile called Quincana or Quincanix. Yeah, it was a terrestrial crocodile that ran on land. I don't want to say it's as fast as a horse, but yeah, it was quick. It ran ran prey down on land, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, the name Bruiser is stuck, Stuart. I think we'll stick with it. Besides the monitor, how many large monitor species? We've got a few monitor species. We've got things like the lace monitor would be number 2. There's some pretty big laces around, particularly like Gippsland, southern New South Wales. You've got Panoptes, the yellow-spotted monitor across northern Australia. They're pretty big. Ada would like to know how fast a dingo can run. I don't know, Ada. I don't have I've got a dingo, but I've never been able to, you know, like let him out and put a speedo on him. I've clocked my working dogs at 57 k's an hour, and I reckon they'd do a bit quicker. And the dingo would be as quick as them. But I think he'd probably well, he'd definitely beat the average dog for stamina. Whether he'd beat the working dogs for stamina, I don't know. If Megalania was alive, would I want to own it? Probably not. I'd love to see it, but I don't think anybody would be able to provide the appropriate home for an animal like Megalania. Have I seen a game Ark playing with dinosaurs? Isn't historically accurate, but loads of fun? No, I haven't. I've seen people share images and stuff of it. But yeah, I haven't. The last thing I need to do is get involved or addicted to game. Eccleston, can non-venomous snakes bite? They certainly can. We'll get out a non-venomous snake before I get out the last venomous snake. We'll get out Diana, because she's one that will bite. Not that I want to get bitten. You big bully. It's embarrassing. I'm going to have to use a hook to get out the non-venomous snake. She's worse than everything else. But she's just shed her skin last night. I've got a skin I can get for you. But these cages aren't built for hooks. Alright. So this girl here is one snake that would certainly bite me sometimes. This is Diana, and her skin, whoop, she's nice and pretty at the moment because she shed her skin last night. This is her skin from last night. Whoop. I can feel your tongue on my arm, Diana. Now that she's out, she'll be alright. But yeah, so non-venomous snakes can certainly bite. If anything, medically speaking, a venomous snake is obviously more serious. But in terms of, how many teeth they've got, people sometimes ask, do non-venomous snakes have teeth? And she's actually got more teeth than the venomous species, because something like the brown snake, we'll get out in a minute, they bite, they pull their head back, they let go, and they wait for the venom to do the job. She bites, she hangs on for dear life, and she throws her claws around and constricts it. So she's got lots and lots of teeth. You're all good now that you're out, hey? Dinah doesn't come out in our lives much because she usually wants to eat me. What do I do with all the shed snake skins? A bunch of things. One of our Patreon supporters, Tom, he asked if he could have one for an art project, but most of them, I give them away to kindergartens and schools if I do a show there. My daughter takes a few into show and tell, and often they end up at daycare there and they cut them up and put them in art projects and things like that. I have a few that sit around here. That's the only one at the moment. But yeah, if they're not good, if they break in a... Are there any rear-fanged venomous snakes in Australia like the cat snakes? Yeah, we do have the brown tree snake, which fits into the same family as the cat snakes. In fact, people overseas call the brown tree snake a cat snake. So it's a venomous rear-fanged snake. I can feel your tongue on my ear, Diana. I wouldn't go bush bashing if Megalania was still cruising around. Yeah, you wouldn't want your car to break down anyway if there was a 7 metre long goanna on the loose. Do monitor lizards in Australia eat venomous snakes? They certainly do. Parentis will certainly eat venomous snakes. Panoptes will eat venomous snakes. Laces will eat venomous snakes. Yeah. The brown tree snakes are rear-fanged venomous snake, weakly venomous. Yeah, so when I say I've never been bitten by a venomous snake, I have been bitten by a brown tree snake. They're weakly venomous. I don't consider it a venomous snake because a lot of people have no effect from their venom at all, and it turns out I'm in that. I had no, and he properly chewed me. He was chewing my hand for all he could. So he would have got a fair chunk of venom in there, and nothing happened. So did I shove my finger down its throat? No, I was just handling him, and he was a cactus snake. He bit me, and he was chewing. But yeah, no, nothing at all. So. Would the parenti be capable of killing a human, like an extremely large one? I don't know. Probably not. I'd say no. I know, people overseas, they're talking crocodile monitors and stuff being capable of killing a human. And look, they could bite a human, like even the Komodo, it kills very large prey. But the Komodo kills large prey by biting it and then following it for 3 months while it dies of infection. If you're bitten by a parenti or a Komodo or an Asian water monitor, and you stagger around the bush for 3 months instead of going to hospital, maybe. Val, gotta go, still need a lot of rest. No worries, you rest up good. We all hope you feel better soon, and I will work on doing some koala videos for you, Valerie. I'm glad that your surgery went well. Do diamond pythons grow as big as the jungle? Diamonds grow quite a bit longer than jungle carpet pythons in my experience. Aren't Komodos kind of like pack predators? Sort of. So Komodos will both, they'll converge on prey. If there's a dying animal, it'll attract multiple Komodos. There's no real evidence that I know of them cooperating. It's not like they get together, it's like, you take the left side and I'll take the right side. But yeah. I wish you'd do a video on thorny devils. I'd love to do a video on thorny devils. I got an invite to do some filming at a reptile park in Alice Springs. So, when the world starts to return to some weird kind of normal, we will work towards filming some thorny devils. But it's going to be a while before I can get to the Northern Territory. If I can get anywhere, my first trip that I'm trying to do, Ghost of John Lennon, thank you very much. What is the eastern brown snake? I'll get out the eastern brown snake now for you. If you do leave a super chat, guys, ask to see something or ask a question, and we'll do our best to do it for you. But the snake we're getting at now is not just any snake, not just any eastern brown snake. Here's, oh jeez, he's got his mouth open, coming at me everywhere. You are a grumpy boy. This big fella, whoa. I'm trying to keep him all in the frame. This fella is Rowdy, who is our big eastern brown snake. Just say hello to everybody, Rowdy. Jesus. I can't put him on the ground because you are psycho tonight. So Rowdy here is the eastern brown snake. He is easily the most dangerous venomous snake that I have. Hang on. I'm going to put him back in the box for a second. I'm going to rearrange this camera so I've got some more working space. And we can have a bit of a talk about the nut job that is Rowdy. I haven't handled Rowdy much other than to clean his tank for a month. I reckon it'd be a month. All right. Hang on, there's another super chat. I'll answer that before it disappears. Bit late to the chat. Sorry, people. G'day, Kyle. How are you, mate? Will crocodiles hunt on land if the opportunity presents itself? If there's something easy to catch. Well, I don't have quail of any type. I'd love to keep quails. I've kept spotted quails, and I'm working on getting some quails in the future. Good for the channel going out to Alice. Yeah, I'd love to get out to Alice Springs. It's just, our Brisbane trip we've got to do first. Please don't get tagged. Yeah, I know. Getting tagged, and I've left him to last when I'm the tiredest. All right. We'll get out Rowdy again. Hopefully there's enough space to be able to see what I mean. He is the worst snake of all my snakes to handle. And is the one that my partner is terrified of me dealing with. Alright, so this is Rowdy. So Rowdy is the eastern brown snake, which is the second most venomous snake on earth and the snake most likely to bite and kill somebody in Australia. So the vast majority of snake bites in Australia are from brown snakes. So that's the eastern brown, the northern brown, the western brown, the dugite, and there's a few small browns as well. Grumpy, sorry. There's a few other brown snakes as well, but the eastern brown is responsible for most of them. Not because he's necessarily meaner than the others, although in my opinion he is. The reason he bites more people than the others is because he lives in a huge distribution. So he lives in a huge distribution. So you find these guys from southeastern, from way up in Queensland, all the way down the east coast of the Great Dividing Range, so through New South Wales, through all of Victoria, all of most of South Australia. So you've got cities like Cairns, Brisbane, Newcastle, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and there's a population from out in Alice Springs as well. So, 2/3 of the Australian population are going to come in contact with eastern brown snakes. You are a bad boy. You're lucky I love him. I love this snake, but he is, if there's a snake that gives me the heebie-jeebies, it's Rowdy. Rowdy by name and rowdy by nature. Don't climb this hook. But yeah, so this is the boy. And he takes a fair bit of respect to handle. And you've wrapped that hook up pretty good. But yeah, he is the most dangerous snake I own by a long, long way. I'm going to put you back. That'll keep me awake for a little while, eh? Alright. Damn, Nick, handling a long, heavy snake with a sore back. I know the pain. You're not old enough to have a sore back, Rami. Where are the shoes, Nick? Tamara, I was planning on keeping everything up this way tonight. So you would see I've got no shoes on. Because I've had to wear gumboots to get to the reptile room because everything is so wet outside. So, wasn't meant to have anything anywhere near my feet. But Rowdy is just... Whoo. Have I heard of judo? I'd love to give judo a go. They don't have it in my town. But yeah, I'm pretty familiar with judo. All right, we'll go back up to where I started. Great show, my friend. We need more reptile information. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Ron and Raven. Thank you for watching. How venomous are the Australian copperheads? So the Australian copperhead is drop for drop, almost identical in toxicity to the Indian cobra, which kills 20,000 people a year in India. Nobody dies from copperheads in Australia. But it's because they don't bite that many people and because they've got good first aid, good anti-venom, things like this. But yeah, they are a potentially lethal snake if it's not treated well. They're not related to the American copperheads, but they're about 50 times more venomous. I don't have one here that I can pull out for you though, I'm afraid. Why do people treat venomous snakes like they're inherently meaner than non-venomous snakes? Great question. Venomous snakes aren't inherently meaner, and I say this even about Rowdy. You know, Rowdy is a grumpy sod, and I love him, but he gives me the heebie-jeebies. He's not inherently meaner, though. The difference with him versus, any of my pythons. Maybe we'll take out this guy. The difference with him versus this guy here is this snake. Since the day he hatched, somebody, whether it's me or his last owner, has been able to take him out, get bitten by him 100 times, and handle him to the point he goes, you know what, I've bitten you 200 times and you haven't eaten me yet. And then they give up. So they become much easier to handle. It's not that they're nicer animals. It's just that they're much easier to condition. Brutus is a great example. Brutus is in many ways easier to handle than Diana. So, yeah, venomous snakes aren't inherently mean, but they're harder to get friendly because the risks involved in handling them is much, much higher. Do I think there is a lack of training in some countries like India, or is it most the first aid aspect? There's a couple of things. The first aid aspect is a big issue. So in India, they've got one antivenom, and it treats the big four. Thank you, Ada. Thank you very much. So the big four antivenom is their polyvalent. Treats Russell's vipers, saw-scaled vipers, Indian kraits, and Indian cobras. The problem is it's made exclusively using snakes from southern India, Madras. And it works very, very well on snakes from Madras. But it doesn't work very well on people who are bitten, like up on the Pakistan border. You need twice as much of it if it works at all. So the antivenom in India is a bit hit and miss. Snake catchers, they exist, but there's less formal training. But their biggest issue in India is a lot of people are bitten, and the first thing that they do is they rely on traditional remedies. Even the Arula, who are the tribe that produces all the antivenom in India. Every snake in India that is milked for antivenom production is milked by a tribal group called the Arula, who were historically snake hunters. That's how they made their living. They hunted snakes, killed them, and sold their skins. And when hunting snakes became illegal, they were jobless. An American bloke, Ron Whitaker, he realized that these guys are the best snake trackers in the world, so he taught them how to milk snakes. And today they milk all the snakes for antivenom production. Even though they make the antivenom, if they're bitten, They rely on tribal medicine. And as a result, they have one of the highest death rates of any group in India. So that's a big issue. The other big issues in India is people, most houses still have their toilets outside. They don't wear shoes. They don't use torches, and they just step on them. How many python species do I have? I don't know, maybe 8 or 9. I've got a few different carpet, and it depends if you want to call the carpets different species or not. I'm off tomorrow. No worries. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for moderating. We had some nuffies on the TikTok, I think, so appreciate that. What happened with my marsupials, the brush-tail bedongs and the gliders? I still have gliders. I still have ringtails, brush-tails, and we are hoping to get these brush-tail bedongs. Unfortunately, we can't leave my state, and the few of my brush-tail bedongs that I've been offered are in another state, so it comes down to whether she's happy to hold them until the borders open up, or whether she needs them gone. I've managed to source a male for them, so if I do get these 2 brush-tail bedongs, I've managed to get a male here in Victoria, but I don't want to get the male if I can't get any females, because, like brush-tail bedongs, the goal will be to breed them. They used to be native to my area. They're extinct in Eastern Australia now, so they're one animal that I would like to breed. All right. Who is Diana? Can I see her? I think we've seen Brutus. Diana is the diamond python. So, you've all seen Brutus. Everybody knows Brutus is the red-bellied black snake. This is Diana, the diamond python. So, she's good now because I've just had her out once, but she's really nippy in her enclosure. She thinks I'm feeding her all the time. She's a bit tricky to handle. Aren't you, girl? Ada is off to bed. No worries. Good night, Ada, and thank you for tuning in. Would love to see Nick get to the point where he can cooperate with zoos. That is our goal. I don't want to say our goal is to have a huge facility. There's some animals that I'd like to have, and, maybe I'd love to have, if I have enough work to justify more animals, I'll get more animals. But I don't want to get animals just because I want animals. There's lots of animals I like, but I've been through that a lot of times. Today, I want enough animals to do our educational message. But I'd love to get more work. And most importantly, I'd love to grow a YouTube channel to the point where we can approach zoos, wildlife parks, and say, look, I really want to film a platypus. You guys have a platypus. 50,000 people will watch this video and see your facility if you'll let us film your platypus. And the reason we want to get that big is so that then we can use, the super chat money and stuff I would love to get our channel, and I say it all the time, but I'd love to, and this is basically modeled on my friend Dingo. He's the best at this. Dingo's channel, they're able to, get in touch with the rhino sanctuary. They want to dehorn rhinos. He can put it to you guys for super chat, and they can raise $2,000 to dehorn rhinos. I'd love to build our channel to the point where a zoo can say, look, we've got this eagle. It needs a bigger enclosure to learn how to fly. It's going to be $5,000. I'd love to be able to raise that for them. That's our goal. I need a tawny frogmouth, an owl, and an owlet nightjar. Owlet nightjars don't do very well in captivity. I've kept tawny frogmouths and I've kept barn owls. If I get an owl in the future, and I've got the permits for them, but I need to find somebody who breeds them, I'd like to get boorbooks, which are the smallest owl in Australia, but they're native to my area. Barn owls are native here as well, but boorbooks are, they're just so cute. I love boobrook owls. A lot of people are bitten by cobras and Russell's vipers. Yeah, so the Indian cobra, the Russell's viper, the Indian crate, and the saw-scale viper together kill about 50,000 people a year in India. I've heard people ate snakes, even the Aborigines. Yeah, so Aboriginals ate a lot of snakes. Today, the file snake, which lives in aquatic environments in Northern Australia, is still an important food source for Aboriginal groups. If I travel to Gosford, New South Wales, you may do a video on wolf spiders. Wolf spiders are nocturnal. You may have to bring headlamps and flashlights. I'd love to do some more spider videos. I've had a lot of people, we did a TikTok video on the funnel web spider, and man, has it attracted some comments. A lot of them, people arguing back and forth about the Brazilian wandering spider. Some of them saying the redback's more venomous than the funnel web, which is simply not true. And a lot of people asking for more spider stuff. And look, I'm happy to do more spider stuff. It's not my area of expertise, but I'm happy. Me and Dingo need to do a collab. I'd love to do a collab with Dingo. We've just got to wait for borders to open. Dingo wants to get here to Australia, and I'm sure that we'll try and catch up. Dingo has said if we're ever able to get to South Africa, he'd love to catch up. But we live in two countries that are both not willing to, yeah. So it's going to be a long time before people can visit Australia or Australians can leave. I'd pay for Nick to get a fire snake. I would love... Fire snakes are one snake that's useless for shows. Like, you can't take them out and handle them. That I'd get just because I find them fascinating. I'd love to get them. Black widows, can we keep them in captivity? A lot of people do. We can't have, the black widows that you get in America, but we get redbacks, which are in the black widow family here in Australia, and they're pretty easy to keep. I used to keep them in jars. I don't keep them anymore, but if I went outside tomorrow morning, if it's not raining, and flipped over some wood, I'd find some redbacks. They're pretty common. Love the channel. But it'd be hard for him to use it for education. Yeah, fire snakes don't do very well for education. They'd be good for this. Like, I could show you the tank and we could put some goldfish in. But fire snakes wouldn't do very well being carted around to schools and stuff like that. The other thing is that they're not very often captive bred. They're almost exclusively collected from the wild under permits. So, the whole ethical thing about collecting stuff from the wild, I don't know. We should do a video on the white-bellied seagull. I'd love to do a video on the white-bellied seagull. I used to live at a zoo in North Queensland that we had a big flying fox colony on the middle of this island. And every year, around the same time of year, this white-bellied seagull would move in and the flying fox colony would start to move out. A giant barred frog's native Victoria, not as far as I'm aware. Certainly not southern Victoria. What snakes are from the Northern Territory that I'd love to see? I would love to see the Owen Pally python in the wild. I've been lucky enough to do a video with a captive Owen Pally. Not too many YouTube channels would have done that. I think there's only about 5 or 6 Owen Pally videos on YouTube. So yeah. If they argue, it's just going to boost you further in the algorithm. So yeah. All right, guys. I'm from Victoria. We have a huge population of flying foxes in your city. Which city are you in? A lot of cities in Victoria have big populations of flying foxes, but none of them have unnaturally large populations of flying foxes. And flying foxes are a really interesting sort of topic because flying foxes today are all species. Like the grey-headed flying fox, which is the one we get in Victoria, is listed as a threatened species. And it's hard to imagine, like if you're driving along the Eastern Freeway at night time from the eastern suburbs into the city, you will see thousands of flying foxes flying overhead. People say, well, how are they threatened? But what makes something a threatened species is more complex than how many is there. You see, if you compared lions to wildebeest, 100,000 lions is a lot less than 100,000 wildebeest because they're lower down the food chain. They're an animal that's meant to be, 10,000 wildebeest for every lion. And flying foxes fall into that category. So even though there might be 100,000 flying foxes in a huge colony, early records show that when Europeans arrived in Australia, there was colonies of up to 500,000 flying foxes every 40 or 50 kilometres the whole way up the east coast of Australia, from Victoria right up to Cape York. So we're talking millions and millions and millions of flying foxes. There was talk of a cull or something, but yeah, Bendigo, Colac, a few places like that have talked about culling them. So unfortunately, it's not a good thing. It just moves the colony on. They live somewhere else. They become somebody else's problem. Things like that. Can we see green snake? I don't have a green tree snake, but I do have a video of the green tree snake up on my channel. Watch a video about the Northern Territory flying foxes. It was a movie help some bat sanctuaries. Yeah, I visited a bat sanctuary 2 years ago. So we did a few videos on flying foxes up there. We did some on 10 facts about the grey-headed flying fox, how you can help fruit bats, lots of videos. Unfortunately, I didn't do very well. People just didn't like flying foxes, but I'd love to visit them again and do some more. What green snake do I have? I don't have any green snakes. Yeah. How's Aztec? Aztec's doing well. We're about to build him a new enclosure. Well, this summer. I've pegged out where it's going to be. We're going to build him a new enclosure twice the size of what he's in now. Aztec, for those of you who don't know, is our dingo. Sammy's met him. So he's one that doesn't pop up in videos very much. He's sort of a retiree. But yeah, he's the animal I've had probably the longest. So do I have a koala? No, I'd love koalas. I've got permits for koalas. They're very, very hard to get. To get into koalas, you're probably looking at $10,000 to acquire one from another wildlife park. And it's not like we say a price. It's not like they sell them for $10,000. Zoos put a price on them basically to figure out what they're worth to trade. So they'll say, well, what have you got? And one, bearded dragon's not going to get you a koala. So yeah, it's very hard to get them, but I would love koalas. I was a koala keeper for a while up in Queensland, so I got a fair bit of experience with them. And I live in an area where koalas are in the news quite a bit because we've got a lot of blue gum plantations. So our koala population locally is quite high. And so a lot of locals go, oh, koalas aren't in any trouble. Problem with the blue gum plantations, they're all going to get cut down one day and all those koalas are going to need to live somewhere. And I've been researching bat lyssavirus. I've got a video talking about bats and flying foxes and diseases. So I'll talk a bit about Lyssa. It's certainly something to be careful of. That being said, you can be vaccinated. The chances of catching Lyssa are far less. If you're working as a vet, and again, chances are fairly slim, but working from a vet point of view, Hendra virus, catching Hendra from a fruit bat via a horse, is probably a more immediate danger than Lyssa. Better off seeing a cassowary. I'd love to see cassowaries in the wild. I used to look after some cassowaries, one called Yarrabah. I can't remember the girl's name, but yeah, I looked after a cassowary called Yarrabah who was like looking after a dinosaur. Have I ever seen leadbeater's possums in Victoria? They live in the mountains. No, I haven't seen leadbeaters. I've spent a little bit of time in their range. It's out the other side of Victoria. I'm way on the South Australian border, whereas the leadbeaters lives way out the eastern side. I've spent a little bit of time out there, but I've never been lucky enough to glimpse one. What animals from the Australian Alps would I like to have? Can any possum species be bred in captivity? A lot of possums breed very well in captivity. I breed ringtails most years. I've bred brushtails quite a few times, sugar gliders, squirrel gliders, that sort of thing. But I would love to keep mountain pygmy possums, and they are now starting to be bred in captivity by zoos and wildlife parks with greater and greater success. They didn't breed very well in captivity for a long time. And basically it's because people have to get the hang of hibernating them. No other marsupial actively hibernates. So they need to be kept very cool, and they've basically got it worked out. Cassowary is not good to get in captivity. I've worked with several cassowaries in captivity. They do very well. They're usually rescues. They're usually cassowary chicks that have lost their parents in the wild. They've had to be hand raised, and they're too dangerous to release if they're hand raised because they've got no fear of people. I like my freshwater stingray. Thank you very much. It was a very cool day feeding those. Why do male emus incubate the eggs? Not sure, but all ratites do it. So male emus, male ostriches, male cassowaries in the ratite family, which is the large flightless birds, the dads are the ones that do all the rearing. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap things up in a minute. We'll tackle the last few questions, but we've been here for 70 minutes. To be fair, the largest bird died hundreds of thousands of years ago. Yeah, we had some even bigger birds and cassowaries and things like that, but yeah, they're very cool animals. All right, guys. So I think we've got through all the questions. I really appreciate you guys all hopping on. If you haven't already, and I say this every week, and I know a lot of you guys already are, but if you want to support the channel and stuff like that, Patreon is the way to do it. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Best thing you can do is just share our videos with all your friends, guys. Share your videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. We always get a run of last questions. How venomous are white-lipped snakes? Not very. If for you to be in danger from a white-lipped snake, you'd have to have an allergic reaction or something like that. Thanks for my time. No worries. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Cody. Everybody else for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm happy to be here every Tuesday. I'm just happy to have you guys to talk to. But like I said, the things you can do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our videos with your friends. If you're watching other creators that you think, would get along with us, mention to them how much you like our channel and theirs. And check out our merchandise. We've got, the mugs, Wicked Wildlife, and Be Nice for Wildlife. We've got the Wicked Wildlife shirts, Wicked Wildlife jumpers, and you can find them on our YouTube channel. If you go to the store, all that goes direct towards basically into a kitty to help us go and film. So, we're planning this trip to Brisbane when it happens. We're going to go up there. We're going to film capybaras and fennec foxes and boa constrictors and alligators and monkeys and all sorts of stuff in Queensland. And that's made possible by our Patreon supporters and the merchandise. Sammy, one of our Patrons, she's got one. They're meant to be good. Hope that's not cold tea or coffee. No, I don't drink coffee. If I drank coffee, my heart would explode. No, it's just water. But it's normally lemon and honey. I should do a meet and greet. I don't know where I'd do it though, because you guys are all around Australia, all around the world. Maybe one day I'll do one in Melbourne or something. I don't know. If there's enough people interested for a meet and greet somewhere, I will do a meet and greet in, I don't know, Melbourne or Sydney or something like that. But yeah, we need enough people interested to obviously make it worthwhile. Lemon myrtle tea, nah, just regular lemons and some honey. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap things up there. Thank you all for watching. Check on back next week. I've got to come up with a video for Sunday. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.